It was a period which witnessed an enormous blossoming of various secret doctrines and orders. Templars and Rosicrucians, Illuminati and Freemasons, Anthroposophists, Theosophists, Neo-Templars and Armanen. Some of them seemed suddenly to have woken up after a centuries-long sleep. What had disturbed their slumber was this: the impending arrival of the prophesied New Age, the changeover from the age of Pisces to the Aquarian Age. Every one of these groups felt themselves called upon to make their mark on the approaching era, the year 1917. 4 men and a woman met here in the Viennese cafe Schopenhauer. The young Maria Orsitsch, a spiritualistic medium from Zagreb, the student and fighter pilot Lothar Weitz, the occultist, orientalist, and officer Karl Haushofer, Rudolf von Sebottendorf, an occultist who had recently returned from the Orient, as well as Prelate Gernot from the Order of Knights Templar. Their subject was the coming of the New Age. They spoke of secret revelations, the Spear of Destiny, the magical violet black stone. They discussed the possibility of making transmedial contact with the ancient Germanic and Babylonian deities, Ishtar, Ostara, and Isais, and of communicating with distant worlds, not only on this side, but also on the other. It is quite likely that this coffeehouse meeting witnessed the birth of the secret Thule Society, which in turn later spawned the German National Socialist Party, the SS, Black Sun, and the Vril Society, which in its turn gave a foundation to the occult activities of the Third Reich and the new comprehensive technology. And the beginning of German UFOs. Maria Orsitsch presented texts she had received from her spirit medium, one in the Sumerian alphabet and the other in the secret code of the Knights Templar. Both texts had already been translated. Were they messages from the gods, or tidings from some alien civilization? 2 special departments, U-13 and SSE-4, were set up to concentrate exclusively on the realization of this new technology. After the National Socialist Party came to power, the occult societies withdrew into the background. Within the SS, the Thule Society created a separate secret organization called the Black Sun. The Vril Society carried on much as before with its scientific research. According to reports, the Vril Society had by the middle of 1934 created its first experimental circular aircraft to be propelled with the anti-gravitational effect, the RFC-1. The men responsible for the design and construction were Dr. Schumann and an engineer from Bochum. Since 1929, the young Gertie Vogt had been responsible for running the Vril Society, and she made herself known to private investors who were prepared to invest in projects that carried an element of risk. In the meantime, the members had become convinced that the mediumistic messages originated not from gods, but in fact from a highly developed alien civilization within the Aldebaran solar system. The main star in the constellation of Taurus is Aldebaran. Could it be that the Sumerians, whose language remains a mystery to this day, were Aldebaranians? If they did perhaps once land in Mesopotamia, it is interesting that the inscriptions on the royal tablets tell us, when the royal power came down to us from the heaven. Before the end of 1934, the Vril Society had built its first light aircraft, the RFC-2 round aircraft. It was fitted with an improved Vril propulsion system and, for the first time, magnetic impulse steering. It measured hardly more than 16 feet from end to end, but it worked. It already possessed 2 typical characteristics of UFOs: the optical blurring of the contours when accelerating, and the colored lights depending on the level of power applied: red, orange, yellow, green, white, blue, or violet. Despite its advanced flying capabilities, the RFC-2 remained virtually unnoticed by the political leadership of the time. By 1939, the SS had already built its RFC-5, the first long-distance aircraft measuring more than 65 feet, and with the mysterious name Haunebu 1. Under tight security, the Haunebu 1 made its maiden flight, in all probability, in August of 1939. Documents show that by 1941, the British had already found out about these top-secret SS experiments.
My background includes remote sensing technology and the exploration of the UFO phenomena. Over the years, I've had the privilege of being a friend and colleague of the late American Naval Admiral Valkyrie, who was instrumental in bringing many of the German scientists to the United States at the end of World War II. As many of you know, there was an executive order given by President Truman in August of 1945, August 15th, 45. And in March of 1946, the States Naval War Committee authorized the collection of German materials relating to experiments of high technology. The first, the second, and the third prototypes of which we see here represent the most commonly seen and observed spacecraft worldwide since 1947. The documentation and personal experiences with many of the German fuel experts, however, suggest that as early as 1935, the Germans were aware that there was life and technology in the universe, and were at least indirectly aware of the possibilities of building their own saucer craft, which would make them basically the first to have opened the window to contact with other areas of higher evolutionary intelligence.
Towards the end of 1942, the department SSE-4 allegedly began work on a new improved version of the Haunebu UFO, the Haunebu 2. This drawing shows the basic layout, including the power plant and fuselage. The exterior shape could vary. The dimensions of the Haunebu 2 varied from craft to craft, from an overall length of between 85 and 100 feet, and a height of between 30 and 36 feet at the center. It was said to be capable of a top speed within the Earth's atmosphere of 3,200 knots. The Haunebu 2 was also, in all probability, capable of space travel. The Vril Society already had its own audacious plan. They got together around Christmas 1943 for a secret meeting in the German Baltic Sea resort of Kolberg. We don't know exactly what was discussed behind closed doors on that occasion. We do know, however, that one subject was right at the top of the agenda. Operation Aldebaran, on which the mediums Maria and Sigrun divulged new transmedial information. Fragmentary though these transmedial messages are, they nevertheless enable us to form an amazingly clear picture of their meanings. Even maps and landscapes of distant planets have been received by medial communication. The Aldebaran solar system is 68 light-years away from the planet Earth. The magical medial telepathic agencies of the Thule and Vril Societies have this to report about it. The sun, Aldebaran, has 2 inhabited planets circling it. The 2 together go to make up the Sumerian Empire. On the 3rd and 4th of January 1944, a meeting is believed to have taken place between Hitler and Himmler. The subject of their discussion, the Vri-Il project, the projection of a huge Vri-Il spaceship through the dimensional channel. In other words, a tunnel that was independent of the speed of light to Aldebaran.
Clearly and logically, Germany would be the most unique place for a contact that would be made by higher intelligence, since it was in the leadership of the scientific industry in the 20th century. Clearly, it was the place where some of the best scientific minds were assembled in the world.
Can we really disregard the possibility that there was an alien influence or contact at work at that time? What could this structure, photographed on the Vri-Il testing ground in the autumn of 1943, possibly be? A Vril 7 engine being tested? Possibly. But mightn't it also be a spaceship from Aldebaran?
Now, we know that in the early parts of the war, there were certain factions of the Allied forces that did not believe he had a secret weapon. And it wasn't until the Americans made much emphasis of this that they began to look at it seriously and indeed did discover that Hitler not only had a secret weapon, he had what we would call today a UFO or spacecraft. He had one already off of the drawing board and flying, and it was capable of 1,200 miles an hour, vertical takeoff, 90-degree changes, and much like a helicopter, and of course was far superior to anything the Allied powers had at that time. Secondly, they knew that he had another craft about to be up and going. It was capable of doing 2,500 miles an hour, which was double the...
Throughout the world, in the ancient manuscripts of lost civilizations, we are confronted over and over again with tales of space-traveling gods who visited our planet to prepare mankind for a new age of knowledge and wisdom that would come about as a consequence of the next evolutionary step. The occult secret societies of the Third Reich knew of these traditions and sought ways to make contact with these space-traveling gods who had first arrived in Babylon all those centuries ago.